I didn't like the Trials of the Brave Warrior event because I was bad at it. I've never been good at dodging, often relying on healers or shields to sustain my team. So it took me a few tries, but this got me thinking that parries could be part of the solution when it comes to saving the physical playstyle. I know you're curious as to what Khaenri'ah has to do with this, but first we have to discuss how each weapon type could effectively use the parry system. Trust me, it's worth the wait. If you're unfamiliar with who I am, my name is Chelsea and I write characters, but today, let's talk about the physical playstyle. Physical characters aren't dead because they're weak. It's because they never received proper support and a gameplay system unafraid to challenge its players. Hoyo understandably is afraid to make the game hard, but I have a solution that fixes the physical playstyle without worsening power creep and finally giving longtime players something for us to get good at. Physical characters don't feel as fun to play because they're forced to have a vision tying them to the elements when they don't rely on reactions. Moving forward, I think Hoyo should take a chance and start introducing visionless characters who use the physical playstyle. This isn't as limiting as it may sound, because we know that a vision is separate from magic regardless of the source. We also know that human characters can be capable of great feats or possess inhuman levels of strength. This also benefits the longevity of the game, as some people feel fatigued by the elemental reaction system. As we head into the future, new reactions with their own mechanics are being introduced, building upon the foundation of old systems. But I think some people would prefer what I'm about to say, and that is the physical playstyle should require a higher skill ceiling. It should take advantage of high risk, high reward playstyles, and I think the parry system featured in this event could be the beginning. Let me explain. Parrying should be built into their kits similar to the event. A character uses their skill, triggering a parry with a short 4 to 5 second cooldown. A successful parry will negate damage, while a perfect parry will also generate energy, making it easier to get the character's burst. This means chaining together successful parries will charge your burst more quickly, allowing you to control the battlefield. This may sound difficult, but it should. Combat should have a rhythm, require practice, and with trial and error become one of the more rewarding playstyles. If you don't hit your parries, you don't get your burst. It's a skill check, and you're going to have to get good. All concepts mentioned moving forward are with DPS in mind. I won't be discussing supports, off-field DPS, or buffs for existing characters. If you're interested in ideas for those, let me know in the comments below. Now let's talk about how the parry system could work for all the weapon types. Starting with the sword. This is the weapon type the Traveler uses and was featured in the event. It feels only natural to start here. This character upon using their skill will change stances as they parry the incoming attack, before lunging at the opponent and stabbing them. The burst does AoE damage while increasing their attack speed and providing an attack buff for the duration of the cooldown. If the player parries perfectly, they can maintain 100% uptime on their buffs. This character is designed for single target combat, but with the speed and attack buffs they can slice their way through groups of enemies as well. It feels like a duelist, and we could always use more of those. With the sword being mostly single target, I thought the Claymore should be focused on groups. The skill causes the character to brace themselves, tanking the incoming hit similar to Beto's skill. On a successful parry, the character swings their weapon, slamming it into the ground, delivering a large area of effect shockwave. When using their burst, the character receives a buff to their attack speed and a large sweeping arc. Think like Noelle's burst, but faster and with a lot more damage. I definitely think grouping could help this character, but the crowd control aspect sounds like a lot of fun. This one is special, as while I was doing the research, I suddenly knew exactly who this unit would be. Every year for Lantern Rite, we receive a new 5-star. I love this tradition, and think that this specific character should be the 5-star available during Lantern Rite. They would be from Chen Yu Vale and use the Guan Dao, the Dragon Crescent Blade, with a combat style rooted in Kung Fu. Instead of a chain of quick pokes like you might think, or something similar to Xiangling's normal attack combo, the skill is a sweeping, circular parry. On a successful parry, the character deflects the blow, following the momentum of the enemy's attack into a powerful 360-degree spinning slash, attacking multiple times in quick succession. The burst is unique in that it provides crowd control, pulling enemies towards you while giving an attack buff. It turns the character into a whirlwind of attacks using martial arts, punishing anyone who dares to step into their range. Catalyst characters are especially fun to design because their combat styles can be so varied. I think there are a ton of concepts that could work here. Where's my drunken kung fu style Hydro Catalyst character? For a physical catalyst, there's the obvious choice of making them a brawler like Hazo or Risley. We haven't received a female catalyst brawler yet, and it fits the physical powerhouse concept perfectly. The parries would work a bit differently here. A successful parry would reduce the incoming damage instead of negating it, while a perfect parry results in a dodge followed by a counterattack. On burst, they'd cast an AoE hit, shredding the enemy's defense while also doing continuous damage for a limited amount of time. This sounds more along the lines of what would be expected for a physical catalyst user. But what if we did something else? What if instead they were graceful, almost like a dancer floating across the battlefield like Khaenri'ah? Think like Kokomi, but without the negative crit rate. Their skill and burst mechanics would stay the same, but the animations would be softer. Instead of punches, they'd manifest ethereal physical weapons like floating blades. You might wonder, if they aren't punching, why make them a physical user at all? Well, it could be explained as a form of magic we don't understand, or even powers that are being restrained. Similar to the red ropes Shenhe wears, there are so many ways to explain it through the lore. And if you still have doubts, maybe this showcase of physical Baiju from my friend will change your mind. It's honestly impressive. Bows can be challenging, but I don't think that makes them exempt from parrying. On a successful parry, the character sidesteps and immediately counterfires, launching 3 high-velocity arrows back at the enemy. I imagine this to play like Tighnari, how his arrows will always find the enemy, but with the bouncy and fast-paced animations of Yoimiya. I feel this could be fun, even for players who don't usually like bow characters. The burst would provide an attack speed buff and shred the defenses of the enemies. I imagine this character to hit the most often, so I thought defense shred would be best. Hoyo wouldn't consider an overhaul like this without seeing a clear financial benefit. It would take several patches at least, and I think that's why we haven't seen any new physical content in so long. And what we had wasn't much to begin with. However, I have a solution that benefits the majority, though I'll give you a spoiler alert. It is not friendly for new players. And that's because the best solution is also an aggressive one. Create a new boss with high resistances to all elements. For Hoyo, this boss does several things. It revives a dead playstyle and creates a space where new, dedicated characters don't just exist, they thrive. This creates a genuine need for a physical carry in every player's roster. You wouldn't have to pull for these new characters, but you'd certainly be better off if you did. We've seen this pattern before, like when Rift Wolves were introduced in 2.2 with the bleed mechanic, making healers a necessity, or how the introduction of Dendro changed the game completely. For this to work, it'd have to be a shakeup similar to Dendro's introduction in 3.0. Let's consider a new map expansion where common enemies have 25% resistance to all elements, an overworld boss has 40%, and the weekly boss sits at a staggering 70%, except for physical. This prevents new physical characters from having to compete with the meta, whether it's the current lunar units or the soon-to-be introduced stellar reactions. Since they operate entirely outside the elemental system, they don't worsen the problem of power creep. Hoyo wouldn't be forced to make them objectively stronger than the current top-tier elemental units to make them pool-worthy. They just have to be masters of their own niche. If done right, these characters could have longevity similar to Neuvillette and Arlecchino, who have found relevance even in the new metas. By being attack scaling, physical characters play in a gray area, where reactions and regional mechanics like Night Soul, Lunar, or Stellar don't matter. And they stay relevant regardless of how the meta shifts. They are automatically upgraded anytime an attack buffing character is introduced and would have flexible teams since they don't rely on elemental reactions. They provide a way for the game to grow horizontally, giving us new ways to play without making our old favorite units feel obsolete. And this should be the immediate future of the game, otherwise they risk overcomplicating their current systems. I think they should focus on creating new playstyles that function differently than the meta, while still being user-friendly. This may be the only way to introduce new characters moving forward without making older units eventually obsolete over the next decade. Hoyo needs to be reminded that these characters that made the game so popular are still loved by players and still provide value. So how does the community and Hoyo actually benefit from enemies with such high resistances? Well, the physical playstyle gets a massive resurgence without worsening the issue of power creep. You'd see a wave of content featuring physical meme builds clearing this boss. Current physical characters like Mika, Xinyan, and Fremine would excel here, while Eula mains would get to show off their high damage numbers again using new physical-centered supports. Those who pulled the new parry-based kits get to show off their mastery over these skill-based characters, featuring videos with 100% buff uptimes and no damage solo clears. But what about players who have zero interest in physical? That's where everyone benefits the most. This boss becomes a vertical investment check for the hardcore community. It gives players a reason to break out their C2s, their C6s, and those 40 to 50 crit value artifacts to see if they can brute force a 70% resistance penalty. It provides a new kind of endgame challenge that I've read some people say has been missing. Think of it as a new gold standard for showcases since the Scaramouche weekly boss fight. I'm aware there are numerous kinds of challenges for this Astra Wonderland, but it's become clear that not everyone is interested in this mode, and some of the games still need refining and bug fixes before I can consider them as an alternative to overworld challenges the community creates. For example, things like Endless Mode should be on most, if not all, combat-focused games, but my ideas for improving Astra could be a video of their own. The TLDR? A high-resistance boss justifies the physical comeback, creates multiple must-have, high-risk, high-reward characters, and offers a fresh challenge for everyone who feels the current gameplay has grown stale. Notcry was brilliant in that it gave them the chance to improve existing combat and clarify some lore while foreshadowing future stories. That said, I think we need an intermission version after Snezhnaya. A chance for Hoyo to finally pull back the curtain and fix the systems that have been gathering dust since 1.0, while delivering heavy lore content. We've seen them plan years in advance, and another 7 patch cycle dedicated to the world's blind spots could be just what we need. Specifically, I have in mind 3 key areas similar to how Notcry received 3 total maps. For this hypothetical version, we would be visiting the Marriage of Ari, as Hoyoverse has told us that we would be seeing more of it moving forward. The ruins of Khaenri'ah, or some kind of major location tied to it, and finally, the Temple of Life. Which brings me to my next point. Instead of just saying, we buffed Electrocharge and Bloom, they introduced them as new reactions, Lunar Charge and Lunar Bloom respectively. And I think Physical's buff should be the same way. That's where Khaenri'ah comes in, because they didn't have the elements, they had Khaenri'ah. Instead of announcing a buff to Physical, Hoyo could introduce this as the Khaenri'ah playstyle. According to what I could find out in the lore, the art of Khaenri'ah was developed in Khaenri'ah specifically because they lacked natural fauna and elemental abundance due to being an underground nation. It's the creation of life itself, a power vastly different from what the 7 nations use. This is the same power that created Albedo and Durin. The patch would begin with the Marriage of Ari, where we journey with Albedo, Sucrose, and maybe even Durin. Perhaps we're studying the Bakunawa, or Rhindaughter's experiments. We could even piece together her history at the time. This could be told out of order, starting with her experiments and then her ambitious quest for knowledge, ending with how she found Nibirius and eventually merged together. Regardless, this leads us to our Khaenri'ah location, where we meet our Archon figure, who is strange. She is a woman with gold hair and pupils in the shape of a 4-pointed star. She joins us in our journey, remaining a mystery for the most part, until our group eventually makes their way to the Temple of Life, a place she calls home. Just as the Temple of Space taught us about memories, the Temple of Life, a domain where Rhindaughter and Nibirius conduct their experiments, could reveal truths about the past that change everything. It would even give Hoyo a narrative way to retcon or refine the world's rules before moving into their next major chapter. Unless they want to save that for a Temple of Time. While the name Temple of Life may sound bright, I think this place should be eerie and have this haunting feeling. The Temple of Space preserved moments in history, but this place would have failed experiments, and maybe some successful ones waiting to be released. The few NPCs we meet here could be more artificial humans like Albedo, though maybe there are flaws in them, as Albedo is cherished by Rhine-Daughter. So, who is our mystery Archon woman? She could be anyone, but I think she'd be an artificial human like Albedo, made in Rhine-Daughter's image as she remembered herself before becoming a sinner. She is the first daughter, and is proficient at alchemy, having studied for many years in this place before finally wandering across Teyvat. Maybe she was looking for Albedo, her brother, or her mother, as I doubt Rhine-Daughter would have raised her, allowing the NPCs here to do that instead. There are numerous story possibilities behind why we visit these locations, and I'd love to hear yours in the comments. But for now, this serves as the narrative justification as to why the physical playstyle is changing. We'd be seeing firsthand how Khaenri'ah functions centuries after Khaenri'ah's fall, making the introduction of a more mechanical, skill-based combat system feel like a natural evolution of the world's history. In the end, I don't think physical as a playstyle should be written off as gone. I think there's a future here, and Hoyo could not only make it work, but see growth in their audience from it. By rebranding physical through the lens of Khaenri'ah and introducing mechanics that actually reward us for mastering its rhythm, Hoyo can turn a forgotten playstyle into a rewarding, skill-based way to play Genshin. I think reviving this playstyle would help address a lot of the criticism directed at them regarding power creep by introducing unique playstyles that maintain the current power level. But this is just one proposed solution to fixing the physical playstyle. I'm sure there are other ways to do it without taking an entire version. Let me know what you think. Does the idea of Khaenri'ah as a rework interest you? Or do you think we should just leave physical in its grave? Let's talk about it in the comments. As for what's next, I'm stepping away from the physical playstyle and its potential characters for now. My plan is to begin writing a story quest for every Genshin character, starting with Charlotte to celebrate her receiving a skin. The future of the game is exciting, with Khaenri'ah just over a month away. I can't wait to meet its cast of characters, bringing with them new stories. The potential for dragon lore, the fairy tale aesthetics, meeting the different kinds of fae, we're going to have so much to talk about. But that's all I have for today. My name is Chelsea, and I write characters. And now, sometimes gameplay ideas, I guess. Thanks for watching.